we're going to open today. I am so excited today. You know how you ask a question and, well, what I do is I ask a question and I wait for the answer to come. The answer may come in an encyclopedia, a news article, something somebody says, something that I read, you know, in Buddha Master's teachings, but I now have the confidence that there's no question that I can ask that I cannot get the answer. And the answer might not be our answer in its totality, but it'll be enough to satisfy the questioning so that the mind can rest. And in the mind resting, there's more of a penetration. You might have to read for me if I get. I'm gonna use these. I have magnifiers. No, these will work. Thank you. No, these are fine. Sorry. What was I saying? Oh, that I will have enough of the answer to satisfy the questioning so that I have more clarity around me that I can continue to navigate the path, you know. So that's that's the purpose of asking questions. And actually, that I could say that's the purpose of getting answers. Rather than asking questions, that's the purpose of getting answers, so that you have enough clarity that you can see the next step on the path for you. And depending on where we are on the path, and depending upon the direction in which we're stepping to go forward, you know, we could have been on the left and we're moving right. We could have been on the right and we're moving left. You know, we could have been behind and we're stepping up faster. We could have been plowing ahead and we need to slow down, you know, but the answer is designed to help you with that so that you can continue to navigate the path. The conclusion of the matter is so wonderful, and I have been impressed not to try to overly understand, not to try to overly understand what we're reading, because that's not really that's not exactly the path to this ultimate knowing. It is, he keeps saying, like, act naturally. What does act naturally? You know, we have to figure out what act naturally means, but we will know when there is natural action, because natural action won't be contrived. It won't be, you know, aggressed upon. You're not pushing through to something, not trying to be any particular thing, not trying to do any particular thing in a particular way for a particular reason. It's just what's naturally flowing. Are you looking for term? Did you find it?
No, just waiting for you. I mean, we can try.
You found something now?
Yeah.
Okay. So when let's see, perturbation, is that a word?
Perturbation.
Perturbation? Oh, that one doesn't sound as nice as perturbation. So when perturbation arises, you know, that one's like funky.
The tension rises.
You know, and you're trying to figure out what you can rest assured that you're not acting naturally. That's a clue for you right there when you're trying to figure out what to do. How should I relate to this? How should I think about it? What is the action that exemplifies my true desire in this matter? Or I don't even want to even think about my true desire in this matter, because I already know it's unwholesome. You know, so let's pretend I mean, like, I don't see it. And so we know then that we're not flowing in that natural action. It's what will spontaneously arise. When we talk about act natural, that means that sometimes, this is not a license, but sometimes we have to get accustomed to acting naturally before we can really see some of our unwholesome behaviors, before we can recognize some of our unwholesome thoughts. So if we keep like turning a blind eye to see, or not wanting to see it, not wanting to face it, not wanting to address it, it can take us a lot longer than just turning full frontal and acting naturally, even if that action, again, I'm saying this is not a license to act out, but even if acting naturally forces you to confront yourself and come in order to effect change, to bring about the change you really want to have. Now, before you can get to this stage, you have to have already passed through some stages so that you have some semblance of what good conduct is, what wholesome conduct is, what beneficial conduct is, what virtuous conduct is. And so there is a place where you get acclimated to what brings abiding peace and happiness. I'll say that, setting in the word like good, what exemplifies, what allows a certain kind of a peaceful and blissful abiding to manifest in the presence of everybody, self and others. But once you know what that is, once you have a taste of it, it doesn't mean that you have realized it. It just means that you have had a taste of it and you know what it is. The realization comes not in the thought about it. That's what I'm trying to share with you. It comes not in the thought about it. This is good. The realization becomes a spontaneous act or action that's just carried out without any thought of I am good, I am doing good, I know what is good, and the Buddha master likens it to the sun shining indiscriminately, but indiscriminately is not the big thing that it shines on all, good or not good. The big thing is that without any awareness that it is shining. And so until our until our behaviors become of that nature, we're not acting naturally. We're still faking, still thinking, still putting up a front, still, and so and it's good to know this. Because not knowing it, many people are born and died and they never make much progress because they've been looking in the wrong place and drawing the wrong conclusions, And so it's so wonderful when a Buddha manifests in this world, because he can turn what's upside down right side up. And just with a flick of his finger, he can shift our perspective or our view, and we can suddenly see things in a non-evil way. What is evil? That which takes us away from our goal, right? And so we spend our whole lives sometimes just toiling, and it's like running in place. We're running, never getting to our goal, like a donkey with a carrot stick hanging in front of we never get to our goal. Always have it in our view, though. We got it in our view. Always have it in our view, but never able to capture it and taste the fruit of it. Tasting Gosh, did I just say yum?
I was just thinking that.
Me too. Tasting, tasting the, tasting the fruit of it, the sweetness of it, but just running. And that's what life in samsara is like. Just running. There's a song I used to sing. I used to love that song. It said, been running for Jesus a mighty long time, and I'm not tired yet. You know, but I'm not singing that song anymore. Because that's taking me, it's embedding a wrong notion in my mind of running, of toiling, of treading, of grasping, of reaching for, that's not it. But I needed that at one point in my life because I was running towards evil, running towards what it was not beneficial for me. And I needed a reason. Well, if I couldn't find a reason within myself to run towards something good, then I needed an object. I needed something to grasp after, to change my direction. So it was so necessary for me at a certain time. But there are times of entering a door and exiting a door. I'm talking now about a door to our understanding. There's nothing in or not in the object, it's in or not within our understanding. And so now I needed something different, because no matter how much I ran after that carrot that was dangling, there was still a separation between me and the prize. Between me and the prize. So the subject object thing has to go away. And I didn't know when I was invited to go further. I didn't understand this at that time. I just knew that which I had believed and the one in whom I had believed told me to walk out that door. That was the only way I was going to get to more. Otherwise, I was going to have more of the same, but it would be dangling and running after the carrot. So now invited into this way, I never thought of the Buddha Dharma in this sense or in this fashion when I entered it, because it was something I needed to learn more. I wanted to know more, So it was a more thing. The reason I entered was to learn more, to know more, to understand more. And so I did begin to learn more, know more, understand more. But that's the same path of evil, that which won't take me to my goal. It is the recognition of the realization of our intrinsic nature and looking to see that takes us to our goal. I was in a bad way this week. I was like crossing my fingers, hoping I could come to Dharma today. I've been so tired, my pressure was so high, they gave me medicines and stuff I was taking. And then my pressure's so low, I could hardly lift my head up off the floor. You have numbers like 97/42. And I mean, really, 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 really low. And I just couldn't even move. But today it's better. I'm over 100, and I feel like I'm 200, compared to how I felt early, up through yesterday. And I was just saying, please, I want to be able to go to Dharma today, because in this time I discovered something. So I'm gonna read today, and that's all the talking that I really want to do, because I want to read as much of this as I can read. Now I'm in the past the mid 300s. I'm going to tell you, it starts going off like a rocket now. And you'll just be so happy to discover what is starting to abide with you naturally. And it's okay if you don't realize it, because it's like the sun shining, right? And maybe when you fall back a little bit, then the recognition of the transformation that's occurring needs a little pointing out, since we may be doing so perfectly in our movement and in our transition without even knowing. I don't think the butterfly says as it goes through its metamorphosis, okay, I'm at stage 1 now. Let me check and see where I am now. I'm at stage 1.5. I'm almost at stage 2. And I don't think it's dealing with that at all. And yet it is occurring. And even when there is the transformation, I don't think he says, well, I once was a lowly caterpillar, but now I'm a butterfly. I just think, like Popeye, I am what I am. And that's all that I am. It's kind of like that. How wonderful that this weight, this pressure that we feel is the pressure of trying to know something. And so we have to use language, Prajna, and I might get to that part today, but that's about 10 or 12 pages away, so I might not get to it. And I have found what I wanted to share today, but then I just looked back 1 page before, and then I said, no, then I looked back 2 pages before, then before I knew it, I was 10 pages before, so I might not even get to what I wanted to share today. I will say this, that those of us who want to be teachers should be very careful. We should know what's involved. What I was looking for when I came around, I was looking for the picture of Buddha Master, the 2 side-by-side pictures. And that's all right. Just take a look at it on your way out the door. That's all. It's in there, but it's hung on the wall. That's right. Just take a look at the picture on the way out the door. Who knows the history of those 2 pictures? Can you share it with us?
He was working, Buddha Master was taking on the suffering of the people and all of the 6 realms intensely. And as he did so, his body aged. He had been young looking and it aged. And all of the people around him kept seeing him looking older and older and older and older, and they were fearful. And after several days, I think it was, he said not to worry. And the next morning he came out and he looked like even younger than he had looked before. And it was the result of his taking on the sufferings of all the people, all entities in all 6 realms.
Mm-hmm. So we should know something about our vows, and we should know something about why we take up practices that we take up. And we should know that a teacher does take up the karma of their students. And like if you minuscule, like little rat-like teacher like me, only take a little bit. But even one such as Buddha Master in the Nikaya form takes on the suffering. So all the time, the sickness that you see is not necessarily what's going on with the person of bodhisattva. It's sharing the karma of students. That's number one. Number two is to whom much is given, much is required. So some things that can be okay and allowable for some, not okay and allowable for others. And when you're intensely practicing or even desirous to practice, maybe that desire brings forth something that will allow you to practice intensely. And with that intensity comes the burning away of karma. There's so many reasons we shouldn't think that we know what it is, even if we're the one going through it. Just know it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, or it could be that. But whatever it is that, that's what it is. Know that there is a karmic root when that allows us to allow. I had an experience at the time. I think I mentioned it to you all before, but I was like pondering and questioning what that experience meant. I mean, what it meant. I had the experience, but I didn't understand what it meant. I'm not talking about heart attack. I'm talking about an experience I had while I was sick, and it was about. Remember, a year ago, I was having some experiences where I sort of went out into what I described from the understanding that I have as a bardo, went out into some kind of spaciousness that was not here, and it also was not somewhere else. So I was sort of suspended in some kind of state of suspension. That felt really, really good, that state of suspension. I couldn't, I had no complaints with it. I couldn't describe it as bliss the way I understand bliss now, but it was like a place where I felt like I could abide, forever. And while I was in that state, maybe for weeks or in and out of that state for weeks, I had what appeared to be it's funny because I'm looking right here where you think you can see the door, but I can't because the door is between the two windows. So I couldn't see anyone approach, but it didn't look like anyone approached. Excuse me. We should watch as well as pray. Yeah, you have to know your territory. And so I was thinking I could just stay here forever, and then I don't care how you say it or how you think about it, but Buddha Master appeared to me that could just be like a figment of my imagination. I don't know. I don't care. It caused movement, and he said, "So what? You're gonna hang out here forever?" I said, "You can't just stay here between here and there. Choose." And I chose. I said, "Well, if there's, any purpose, reason for staying, I'll stay. If there's not, I just assume go. If this is on the way and this is so good, my goodness, I can't wait till I reach the destination wherever that is, But here's the thing that I have read, and according to my understanding of Bardo is intermediate, and there's lots of different off ramps, and I might just see something that. And I'm captured by it. And I might vector off the highway just before the right off ramp for me. You see? And so I was like, no, I think I need to stay. I think I need to stay in this body, in this life, and make my call in an election sure. That's what I decided. It's all right, sister.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Yeah.
To making my calling and election sure. That's the thing about attaining Buddhahood in this very life. It's not like when you get out there in the bardo. Bardo means in intermediate, in between, don't know what, don't know where, don't know how, don't know why, heading from here to somewhere, who knows where. I don't want to be out there trying to figure things out. I want to be where I need to be. And I want to be sure before I leave for the journey. That's the thing. That's not Shakyamuni Buddha's Buddhahood, because there are many innumerable states of Buddhahood, So we shouldn't think that we are going to attain Shakyamuni Buddha state of Buddhahood in the life, but a state of Buddhahood when one has control over one's own living and dying and a whole bunch of other good things. Okay, and so I'm thinking about this, right? And now I'm having this experience, and in this experience, I'm not out there like in this great vastness, this great bardo thing, but I'm right here in this body, and yet that came in here. I was like, qu'est-ce que c'est? You know?
What's gonna say?
I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I didn't know what. I didn't know how to describe it. I think I texted Jim. I said, Jim, something's happening. Only I'm not going out there. What's out there came in here. And there was this expansiveness in here. And suddenly you hear words, you remember them and you split them off your mouth. And I'm thinking about some of the words I've so frivolously said to express, things, spiritual principles, but I don't really have the meaning of them. I don't really know the meaning of it. I only have a human language to try to describe what something means, and then think I know what it means. But once you have an experience, then you know what something means a little bit better than just those words. And those words that somebody else used may not even do it for you. You just come up with your own language around that thing, and you do the best you can if you share it. And most things should not even be shared. But I just wanted to say that phrase of nowhere to go and nothing to do means something different to me today than it did 2 weeks ago, because I had an experience of something that was still beyond my understanding and something that seemed far off and far away, a kind of state. Moved in me. That's all I can say. And when we look at some things from the outside world and from our lack of knowing, they can seem really scary and they can seem really ugly. And even to the ultimate conclusion, like having to part in the ways that we know someone or know things. But yet, from the reality of it, it's a different thing. And it's a different experience. Okay, so now I'll set the foundation for this, and I'm gonna read. And as I'm reading, everything I'm reading today, forget about what you learned in theology school. Forget about the view you have. Forget about how you're thinking about something, and just listen to what is being said. Nothing else is required except hearing this. And somewhere, something may catch hold in you that begins to really just change the way you hold some view. And that holding of a view could be your hindrance. Just the holding of it could be your hindrance. It keeps you from taking the very next step towards not knowing something, but towards realization of something. So we talk about the Four Noble Truths. The first one is the truth of, suppose we thought of that like a law. It's in place, but like the law of gravity. After a while, we could overcome or override the law of gravity with a higher, what? Higher law. Law that supersedes. So it doesn't mean that that lesser law is not a law, but it means it applies in certain situations. And then there are certain situations in which what? That does not apply. So now that statement that Shakyamuni Buddha made when they were asking him about asking him questions about after this life, he would say, what did he say?
I have not seen that.
He kept saying that does not apply. That they kept asking, well, you know, Buddha, after enlightenment, blah 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 does blah 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 does blah 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 occur for you? He said that does not apply. Can you imagine living in a kind of freedom where all the hindering thoughts, actions, words, everything that you felt was a hindrance to you no longer applied? Could you think of freedom in this sense that all of the strongholds were where you were bound, like you're suddenly free, just free from them. All the chains are broken, and one abides in a state where nothing is oppressing. Nothing is hindering you. To think of an action is the very act. So nothing's even required to do anything. Can you imagine such a state? I'm gonna save that song till the end now. Can you imagine such a state? There was a song that I liked. I could only imagine what it would be like when I stand before your throne. I can only imagine. These were the greatest things, surrounded by your glory. What would my life be? You know, I can only imagine. But now we're being asked to imagine something else, not something to behold, but something to actually be. Not just beholding it only with our eyes, or being in the vicinity of it, in the presence of it, but being actually that. He said that was a conjured city to give you a wider scope, a wider vision, a conjured city. When you're weary. Back to that song, I've been running for Jesus a mighty long time, and I'm not tired yet. So here's the creation of a conjured city that says it's just over the bend now. Just around the corner. And you get around the corner and lo and behold, there it is. Thy kingdom come. And so I sit down and rest for a while, eating grapes, reclining, you know, and just in this heaven, kind of. And they said, actually, this ain't it. But this was just to give you a little bit of encouragement about what it will be like when you awaken to your natural state, what it is. He said, so, okay, pack up your gear. We got to keep going a little further now. And we can happily move along because we have experienced something. We've had a taste of something. So this freedom of mind we're talking about, we're not going to be able to use a bound mind to find freedom. Freedom of mind, we're going to have to release that mind. We're going to have to loose it and let it go. And we're so afraid. And we're mixed up and we're confused because we heard a little bit of teaching here, a little bit of teaching there, a little bit of teaching there, in this way, that way, the other way. Yeah. And so in this section, I think this is the section, Buddha Master talks about a little bit about the different methods. So if we think of schools as simply methods, and that all of these schools lead in a certain direction, a good direction, a right direction, but for different kinds of minds. So if you get in the wrong school for your mind, when I say the wrong school, the one that doesn't work the best for the way your mind, you need a different method, or need a different way of understanding this, but you latch down around it instead of asking the question, because questions lead us to the answers, and the answers are the thing, not the question. Remember. Then you will encounter another method. But when you encounter another method, if you say, oh no, like this is what I was taught, so this is what I believe, this is what I embrace, this is what I hold to. I know some of this work, this work, this work, this work, and this. What did not work is the question. And so you might need a little bit more understanding around this area. And then you could actually make use of what you have learned and what does work, but in a more powerful and effective way. I'm not anymore. I used to be an NLP practitioner. And I worked with people with smoking addiction, and some other, and food addictions. That was my job, And but when I got this job, before I got this job, I had to give up that practice. Not that it wasn't a good practice, not that it wasn't useful for what it was useful for, but I couldn't use that practice with this job. You understand? It would be the wrong use of the technology. It would be an evil use of technology. And then I wouldn't even really know, with my desire for people to like really understand and enter into some spaces, I wouldn't know whether they really did of their own accord or whether there wasn't some persuasion. And the longer I walk this journey, the less I'm trying to persuade. So you say like miracles are not for unbelievers. Miracles are for those who believe. Okay, so I've gone back like 15 pages before the insight that I wanted to share, so we definitely won't get to it today, but I think all of this is important. The truths of Buddha Dharma are infinitely profound, particularly regarding the matter of illuminating one's mind and seeing one's original nature. Of course, during these last few days of exposition, it seems we've not even talked about illuminating one's mind and seeing one's original nature. That's what I like about Buddha Master, because it's like, oh, Pannavati, you digress. But Buddha Master, he digresses, and he's the only teacher I found that digressed, and it makes me no longer feel guilty about digressing. In Buddha Dharma, seeing one's original nature is a very deep issue. How could one be in thorough correspondence with one's original nature so easily? If someone says that he will empower you right away and thus cause you to be in thorough correspondence with your original nature, that's nothing but words, and he's nothing but a deceiver, a demonic person. To enable living beings to see their original nature and become Buddhas, the Buddha taught prajna for 22 years. Of course, the Dharma in the supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation is different and its own and unsurpassed level. So the most precious gift that we have from Buddha Master is what? The supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation. Could you see why I couldn't just start with his teaching on that? I mean, it would be a precious and all-encompassing work that you walk on like a rug without having any basis, any foundation, any appreciation for it. But as you begin to learn something, we start to know what we don't know, and we start to make room for what we don't know so that we can know something, and so that we can know how to appreciate something and how to hold something. So when people come with a lot of negativity around that, I don't have to be upset with them because they just don't know. Just don't know. Let's get back to the main topic here. Generally speaking, in the Chan school, one is first required to attain awakening. Only after awakening to the truth can you speak of striving to see it. It can be called jhana only when you see the truth and abide in the Buddha nature of true emptiness that is imperturbable thusness. Upon entering jhana, it doesn't matter if you don't understand something. Just listen. Upon entering jhana, you generate the effects of contemplative illumination, prajna. Then one's jhana power to exhaustively observe grows more and more. So upon entering jhana, you generate effects of contemplative illumination, prajna. And then your power to observe grows more and more. So you can't operate or activate a power to observe until you enter jhana. So you can't use contemplation per se to enter jhana, because the power of observation grows more and more on the basis of entering. In other words, he talks about how difficult it is to use ordinary words to describe this. But it's like saying you can't force your way in the door. But if you stand ready at the door, knocking, just standing ready at the door, then if the karmic conditions are right, you will generate the effects of contemplative illumination prajna. Then one's jhana power to exhaustively observe naturally grows more and more. And by calming the mind consciousness, one completely empties the mind consciousness. And only after the manas and alaya consciousnesses are also completely empty can one enter the correct wisdom of prajna. So you can't force yourself into this. I don't care how much you sit here and grit and bear it, you're not going to get into that kind of contemplative space by that sheer willpower. Alone, the willpower you need to activate is the belief in cause and effect. And if the right, by producing the right causes, then the effect will be there. That's it. So if I don't have a good meditation today, I know I didn't, when I said good meditation, couldn't steady the mind, couldn't calm the mind, couldn't still the mind. I know that the conditions to allow that to come to pass were not present. That's what I know. There's nothing I can do sitting there trying to make it come. Such is what the Chan school requires. However, the Chan school emphasizes the attainment of awakening. Chan would be Zen in Japanese, right? Especially the method of gradual awakening. The Chan school emphasizes the attainment of awakening. Especially the method of gradual awakening. One begins with the doctrine. Through examining and analyzing, one gradually understands the doctrine and uses it to reach awakening. All of you should be careful. Some patriarch masters regard the eighth consciousness, which is the Alaya consciousness, as Buddha nature. This view is problematic. Now, the approach in the Dharma characteristic school is different. So now we just talked about Zen or Chan, very superficial. Now, the approach in the Dharma characteristic school is different. In the Dharma characteristic consciousness only school, they first tell you from the perspective of theory that this is what this is about and what that is about. For example, the mind consciousness of humans is classified into a number of types. How each type of mind consciousness changes, where your body came from, what the relationship is between the mind consciousness and the external insentient world, what the actual existence of direct verification is, according to Hetu Vijit, and what the true emptiness of Buddha nature is, after all. So those who are really into different kinds of psychological types and so forth, if they had an interest into Buddhism, if one were a wise teacher, one would introduce them to the Dharma characteristics consciousness only school. That's what a wise teacher would do, right? Why? Because it relates, it picks up the thread of what they already know and understand. And it takes them deeper. It takes them not just to how the classifications and the number of types, but how each type changes, how each type of mind consciousness changes, and then into where your body came from, and then what the relationship is between mind consciousness and the external sentient world, what the actual nature, what the actual existence of direct verification is according to Hetu Vijja, and what the true emptiness of Buddha nature is. They inform you of the truth through reasoning expressed in language, enabling you to understand the truth based on reasoning. They inform you of the truth through what? Reasoning expressed in language, enabling you to understand the truth based on reasoning. You then have to cultivate yourself to inspect and illuminate your own state of realization. The Pure Land School simply does not tell you about whether you have to illuminate your mind or whether you have to see your original nature. It's good enough if you just earnestly chant Amitabha Buddha and abide by the precepts well. You should know that silently chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha is to concentrate your mind. What's the purpose of chanting?
Concentrating the mind.
If you can chant the name Amitabha Buddha well, if you chant it with a totally undistracted mind, Amitabha Buddha will come to receive you at your death. There is only this one sincere and respectful wish. That is, you calm your mind and earnestly chant the name of Amitabha Buddha. However, this practice has a drawback. What is its drawback? It involves desire-based attachment. You desire and are attached to Amitabha Buddha coming to receive you. If you chant to a certain degree, Amitabha Buddha will indeed come to receive you. Nonetheless, this is, after all, deep entrance into the state of an illusory city, which is not high unless you ascend to the upper grade of the upper class of the Pure Land. Several days ago, I talked of 3 ranks. Among them, the Western world of ultimate bliss can only be regarded as the middle rank. It is one of the 10 trillion glorious and pure Buddha lands. There's also the Sambhogakaya Buddha, which is at an even higher. The Sambhogakaya Buddha land is not a land where holy beings such as those who are at the middle grade of the middle class of the Western world of ultimate bliss can go. Those who are at the middle grade of the middle class do not have the cultivated power or ability to ascend there. Those who are not beings of great holiness and virtue cannot even go to the heaven of the most rarefied form. They do not have the ability to go there. At this point, you disciples may be thinking, my master has spoken a long time on Buddha Dharma. Is his teaching going backwards now? What is this? Since they are holy ones, how can they still have a body to go somewhere? This is a very profound question. I don't want to speak more about this at this time. However, I do want to remind you that Buddha Dharma does not tell you to realize an emptiness where there is nothing whatsoever. That would be totally meaningless, entailing a state of stillness and extinguishment as that of a cobblestone or a floor tile lying on the ground. This is not the intended meaning. Realizing emptiness means a kind of enjoyment of great limitless bliss and competence in all aspects. So maybe this can begin to shift our understanding of emptiness. Now, we can shift it now or we can shift it later. If we shift it later, we will reap the benefits and the fruits of it when? Later. If we can shift it now, we can begin to realize some of the benefits or fruit of it. So in our striving for emptiness, your striving being an operative word for emptiness, not understanding what emptiness is being the other operative word, maybe today there can be some shift in your understanding that allows you to take a great leap, make a great stride, and where you think you are trying to go, right? Realizing emptiness means a kind of enjoyment. Enjoyment, that's a dirty word, right? A kind of enjoyment of great limitless bliss and competence in all aspects. Thus, in emptiness, there is still the essence and function of ultimate bliss. Once you realize a certain level of cultivated power, you will know this. Think about it. If there were no enjoyment whatsoever, if there were only emptiness that's devoid of all things, why would one want to cultivate oneself? I'll return to the subject of the Pure Land, the state of the Pure Land. Chanting the Buddha's name is for concentrating the mind. Chanting the Buddha's name is simply for concentrating the mind. When the mind is concentrated, such that all stray thoughts are gone, there's only Buddha in the mind. Having one Buddha in the mind, there's no differentiation. Having one Buddha in the mind. In this case, it's Amitabha Buddha, right? So I'm not thinking like, is Buddha, is it Amitabha? Is it Shakyamuni? Is it Medicine Buddha? Is it, I'd say, which form shall I, the 4-arm, the 10-arm, so hence naturally the mind becomes empty and tranquil, having one Buddha in the mind. And one enters into original nature. I was like, that sounds like a good one right there. That's a good practice. That's a simple practice. It's an easy practice. We think, but when you're in the throes of impermanence, for instance, if you're in the middle of a life-threatening illness, you're thinking about dying. You're not thinking about Amitabha Buddha. You know, if you're in great pain, you're thinking about and experiencing, and you're right there with the pain. You're not thinking about single-pointedly thinking about Amitabha Buddha. You're not concentrating the mind right there. So can you do it? Is it as easy as it sounds? Like I'm just Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, and then you get hit by a car, you be thinking, oh shit. You're not thinking Amitabha Buddha. That is to say, when one chants the name of Amitabha Buddha with a non-differentiating mind focused on that Buddha, one actually has even forgotten that Buddha. If you do not believe me, you can experience it on your own. When just being in that vicinity becomes so natural to you, then at that moment, there will be nothing else on your lips. You have in your way moved from breathing air in the ocean to being like a fish breathing water. You picture Amitabha Buddha in the sky. So many times I say, I might not attain Buddhahood in this life, but I know I'll get to Jesus' heaven. Because I know that experience. I was drowning one time when I was 13. I had already entered into a certain kind of peace and rest that the world couldn't give me, and it was my refuge. And I was drowning. I dived off the low end of the pool and hit my head, and so I was struggling. But then I reached a place of non-struggle. Like it was futile to struggle. Actually, I didn't even want to struggle. I had passed by trying to hold my breath and reach the top. Where I was perfectly okay. And I thought I took a breath. Maybe that was the water getting in, but to me, I took a breath and I found that I could breathe underwater. I wasn't actually breathing underwater. I was dying, but I thought I was breathing underwater. And I just relaxed at that. And it was so wonderful until suddenly I was snatched back into a painful kind of existence. And that was because the lifeguard had saved, quote, my life, unquote, which I'm happy for, and brought me back to this reality. Temporary, I could die again. Yeah. But even though I didn't understand all that I had experienced, I had experienced something that I'm only now beginning to understand. Almost, right, we are 60 years later. Only now beginning to understand. Only now is my mind catching up. And then after it catches up, I gotta lose it, right, to go any further. You have to experience it on your own. You picture Amitabha Buddha in the sky. Then, what is the appearance of Amitabha Buddha? I will first tell you that he stands on a red lotus with 1,000 petals. The Buddha has a red lotus with 1,000 petals that emits bright light in 5 colors, with red being the main color. Dang. I don't have one in this. There's one on the top of Kuan Yin, but you can't see it. You don't have to get up. It's on the crown. At the top of the crown, there's Amitabha Buddha, because he's her master and her stepping down from Buddhahood to Bodhisattvahood, which was her vow. You know, she takes ferries people, those that she saves, she ferries them to Amitabha's world. That's where she takes you. Doesn't take you to her pure land, because she has forsaken her pure land. She takes you to his pure land where you can continue to grow. Okay. The light pervades the world in the 10 directions, and he holds a purple golden bowl of abundance in his left hand. His right hand has formed the receiving and guiding mudra to receive and guide living beings. He's wearing 3 garments. Of these 3 garments, the outer one is red, the inner ones are yellow. In the eyebrows of Amitabha Buddha is a white tuft of hair. The color of his body is called red. He's barefooted. He's not wearing shoes. At the crown of his head is the protuberance of a Buddha. He has the 32 distinctive bodily characteristics of the Buddha, the 80 dignified marks of the Buddha, the 64 perfect characteristics of a Buddha's voice. He emits 2 types of light, the light of his body and a halo surrounding the top of his head. Such light pervades space without any differentiation. Then notice in this putting together of qualities that or images that represent qualities of perfection. You don't have to get into the mental digression of the qualities to see red light means stop. That's it. Green light means go. Now, if somebody else is running through their red lights while you're going on your green light, you might have a collision, but you never wonder whether they had a red light, if you know you had a green light, right? Okay, so by creating this kind of, and visualization is not even really a good word. It's like a shorthand, creating a shorthand that allows the mind to experience something or enter something without thinking about it. Is everybody with me? Mm-hmm. And so this is a kind of, starts for M. It's a kind of method. It's a method. It's a method for a certain type of mind. Sometimes we could say that it is the one that the method that you think is not for you because you're this kind of person. That's the method that you need. Yeah. So he such light pervades space without any differentiation. On his left side and right side, respectively, he's accomplished by Avalokiteshvara and Mahasamapramta Buddha. And I'm not that familiar with that particular Buddha, but wherever you see Amitabha Buddha, you see Avalokiteshvara and this other great bodhisattva will accompany him, and together they will receive and guide living beings to the Pure Land. Now, I have the great Dharma of long life transmission, and I can give that transmission. I don't give it because I don't really practice. If I practiced it and practiced it well, I would give it. And maybe because I was given it, I need to practice it just so I can give it. Well, not just so I can give it, but I need to practice it so I can give it. Otherwise, what was the purpose of me having?
Longevity. You could use some longevity right now.
Yeah, now, which I don't really care about, but maybe that's my ignorance. Maybe I need to care about it You know, and I think I'm okay. Maybe I need to care about it. So maybe it was given to me for me. So you never know these things, right? You gotta keep on, yeah, you just keep asking the questions, and no answer is necessarily the total answer to a question, but it could be the part of the answer that you need to know right now to be able to go further. So I feel safe. I feel safe in the arms of the Dharma. I feel safe like it's that kind of friend. That whatever I need at any particular time, you know, it becomes that, or that part of its totality is revealed to me in a way that I can use it. Whether I want to hear it or not, whether I want to accept it or not, whether I want to apply it right now or not. A good friend tells a friend the truth. And so that's how I think of the Dharma. And that's why it has a sort of kind of vitality and a personification for me. Otherwise, it's like one of my masters said, like a dead master is like a dead husband. Useless. And so it's, unless these words become alive for me, they're useless. Just learning one more, you know, that's the thing about scattered wisdom. Scattered wisdom doesn't mean that it's not true. It's just not ultimate truth. It's not one that will ferry you across. It has usefulness, for sure. It has usefulness, and as much as you want to use it for this world, that's fine. But it's not useful for the ultimate world. That's what I'm saying to you. It's not useful for the ultimate world. They will receive and guide living beings to the Pure Land. However, Amitabha Buddha only receives those who are going to the upper grade of the upper class of the Pure Land. That's the caveat right there. You can chant Amitabha Buddha and you can visualize till the cows come home. But if you don't enter into the gradation where you can abide with him, you won't go there.
You won't turn.
Right. You won't turn. Avalokiteshvara receives those going to the middle class of the Pure Land, and Mahastampa Prapta Bodhisattva receives those going to the lower class of the Pure Land. So maybe if I go to the Pure Land, maybe because I don't have affinity with him, I ain't going to the lower one. That's a good thought. That's not necessarily true.
The middle, probably the part.
Those destined for the upper class of the Pure Land are received by Amitabha Buddha. However, there are not just 3 grades or levels altogether. There are 9 grades. Each class has 3 grades in it. And Mahasampa Prabhupada Bodhisattva receives those going to the lower grade of the lower class, the middle grade of the lower class, and the upper grade of the lower class. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva receives those going to lower grade, the middle class, the middle grade, the middle class, and the upper grade of the middle class. Amitabha Buddha receives those going to the lower grade of the upper class, the middle grade of the upper class, and the upper grade of the upper class. The Pure Land is divided into those 9 divisions. You might be wondering, given that we've talked about Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva for so long, how could it be that she is not as great as Amitabha Buddha? Buddhas are equal. Avalokiteshvara is the majestic Jinfaming Tathagata. Why would she want to go to the Pure Land? The reason is that Amitabha Buddha is her master. Amitabha Buddha is the master of Avalokiteshvara. Do you understand? That is why the Bodhisattva wants to go there to help Amitabha Buddha. That's the reason. So I consider, and I know Buddha Master as Dorje Chang as my Buddha Master. That's why I speak of him in the present, that he's alive, and I make communication with him because I ain't going around trying to talk to dead people. I will also tell you that Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva goes to help all 5 jhana Buddhas in the 5 directions. By generating the Manakayas, she goes to the places of those Buddhas. She manifests a body that can physically visit those territories, those lands. That is because as a Bodhisattva, she takes, that's whatever you call that in English, active present, whatever the right way of saying that is. She takes, not took, she takes the saving of living beings as her own responsibility. But actually, she's a Buddha. Seeing the pitiable state of living beings, she stepped down from Buddhahood to engage in Bodhisattva activity. In name, she's a Bodhisattva, but in reality, she is a Tathagata. You might ask, Master, doesn't stepping down entail retrogression of her cultivated powers? That's not the case. She stepped down for the purpose of convenience. This is analogous to the governor of a province. He is still the governor of the province, even though he stepped down to a level where he serves as the head of a country. He occupies the position of head of a country so that he can take care of people. He can directly lead people. He can gain firsthand knowledge of the general public. In that position, he can directly see people doing their farm work, transplanting rice seedlings and operating factories. That's the idea. As a governor of a province, he would not be able to do that. How could a provincial governor see such things when going to a place? People would gather to welcome him when he arrives. So that situation would be different. At this point in my discourse, I'm talking about the usefulness of the Pure Land School. You may say, the Master's use of the Heart Sutra to impart the absolute truth is so troublesome. In the exposition, the Master has once more explained to us some principles on the Buddha Dharma and is now getting into other sects and schools. I tell all of you this, this Master of yours thinks that although my level is low and I'm about the same as all of you, I still have things that you need to learn after all. Otherwise, I would not impart the Dharma to you. So it's not for himself, it's for us. And that means if he's talking to a child, he has to speak to a child in the way that the child understands language. So not that he doesn't know, but he has to find a skillful means to be able to express it. Because otherwise, what's the point of it? Speaking of other sects and schools has its marvelous purpose in this exposition of the Dharma. What I'm talking to you about now, it is necessary, it's fruitful for me to speak about the different schools to help you understand how to use this ultimate Dharma that I'm going to teach you. Otherwise, you might cling to some aspects of that and miss some important transition that's necessary to occur. Or otherwise, because you weren't listening when I clarified something about that method and that being okay when used within the conduct of that method. For instance, if you want to use your hands to the most optimal benefit when you're swimming, you can wear those webbed gloves because it captures the water that runs between your fingers. You don't have to try so hard to keep your hand cupped, to propel you through the water. You can wear those webbed gloves. But now, if you're trying to button your shirt with the webbed glove, that's not going to work for you at that time. So it says, you must absolutely, so speaking of other sects and schools has its marvelous purpose in this exposition of Dharma, what I'm talking to you about right now. Disciples, you absolutely must not think that since my level is not much different than yours, that the Dharma I impart is not necessarily the truth. I want to remind you of something. What I have imparted in this exposition called Expounding the Absolute Truth through the Heart Sutra already amounts to about 200,000 Chinese characters. Although there's still about a half that I have not yet imparted to you, you can infer how much different my level is than yours. I've already decided that when this book is published in the future, I will, with my sincere and touched heart and conduct, invoke Buddhists to arrive in the sky and bestow upon us genuine, holy Amrita from a Buddha land to bless this book and to bring to living beings the fruit of leaving suffering, attaining of happiness, and ultimately realizing enlightenment. And we were there when this book was released to the public and dedicated, not the English translation, but it took 20-some years for the Chinese version, already spoken in Chinese, for the words that to be useful to ordinary hearers or hearers on a low level and hearers on an intermediate level and hearers on a high level. So it still took something to pen it, to put it into words on paper that if you were present with it to hear it, that it could be received in a certain kind of true and living way, not one that had to filter through the intellect. You see? So it took 20-some years, just Chinese. So this helped me as I read this yesterday, to be even more patient. Well, to be patient, because I have not been patient, but to be patient with English translation, so that when it comes, you won't have to use the filthiness of my words born of ordinary experience to try to explain something that is so profound and so high. Because, and he'll talk about why that is as we go further in this discussion. I says, my level is not much different than yours. How much different is it from yours after all? This is for you to comprehend gradually. So where I am right now, I think his level is so much higher than mine. So when I say I believe I have the intrinsic nature of the Buddha, is that truth or lie?
True.
No, it's a lie.
You
It's a lie.
don't believe it?
No, I don't think my realization or my original nature, if I thought my original nature was very much akin to the Buddha masters, I wouldn't think what I think every minute of the day. I could tell you of 99 out of 100 minutes. Is it that many in a day? Yeah. I'm thinking 99 out of 100 minutes, I'm not thinking with the thoughts of a Buddha.
So you're saying your conviction would be different?
My conviction would be different. Yeah. This is something I am clear about, but it's something for you to comprehend gradually. So this study or investigation that I've been on, I'm speaking now here and there about sprinkling it with my own experience, not to give you my experience, but to tell you or to point you to how to have your own experience, how to use this. If I have a toenail clipper and try to brush my hair with it, it's just not going to do much. But it's to help you to begin to think for yourself how to really use this so this becomes something beyond blah blah. What is the reason for taking this approach in imparting the Dharma? As I impart the truth of Prajna, I want to cause all of you to learn a little more knowledge about Buddha Dharma and perfect your own understanding of the absolute truth of the Heart Sutra. This is because all Dharmas ultimately lead to Prajna. All Dharma. The truth in this is very profound. It all leads there. It can take it. Some paths take a day, some take a year, some take 10 years, some take 10 lifetimes, some take, I could walk to Virginia, I could ride a bike to Virginia, I could ride in a car to Virginia. I could take a plane to Virginia. How quickly do I want to get to Virginia? Do I want to enjoy the scenery? Do I want to go up 85? Or do I want to take 74 and touch a little bit of Kentucky that's so vast and beautiful, and then come up along the Front Royal backside of Virginia that's beautiful? Or do I want to jump on 85, nothing but highway grid, 12 lanes, and get there? It depends on what do you want. I mean, have we even thought about it? Like, I just want to get to enlightenment. I just want to get to enlightenment. That concrete highway. That might not be what I want. So before I continue imparting these dharmas, I will definitely still talk about some other matters. In other words, I'm not going to just talk about it through the lens of the Heart Sutra. I'm going to share lots of things with you so that you can know and see what you have an affinity for. See what you might like to investigate a little bit more. Ultimately, what is the goal of chanting in the Pure Land School? It is about the use of thoughts. After all thoughts are reduced to one thought, you might understand the truth of emptiness. Only after undertaking the truth of emptiness, though, can you awaken to your original appearance, the Dharmakaya that was not born and that does not perish. What are some of the things that the Way On School does, after all? While we are on this subject of schools, we'll now discuss the Way On School. Way On School mainly practices visualization, 16 visualizations. They practice the Mohe Ziguang, also related to the Way In School, is the Way In Dharma realm state, the Dharma realm state. You directly enter into the visualization and fix your focus. Step by step, you deeply enter. That does not require you to cease differentiating. Rather, you have to visualize the Buddha by differentiating in a very meticulous and detailed way. Eventually, you end at complete quiescence in a state of emptiness. You use existence to take in empty. Using this method enables you to realize Buddha nature. So you can see that you, like, if you start mixing up some of this with some of that, I like this, I like that, I'm gonna do my thing, like, I never mind about that. So there is this method of baking a cake, of making a cake, not just baking, because most of it is in the preliminary. Once you put it in the oven, your job is done, except to not let it burn. But putting it together is the difference of whether you're gonna have a cake in the end, right? And so now, and I'm hoping that this is helpful to you. This is just some of the stuff we need to know to do our best at whatever we are doing. And to have some peace and some sense of not being lost in this whole sea soup of Dharma. Dharma, everywhere you look, Dharma, like water everywhere and none to drink. It's but it helps you to start to see that within this whole sea that there is a path of navigation. And if you're not a Pacceka Buddha, enlightening yourself by yourself, then you have to be amenable to some guidance. And that the safety that there is in guidance. There are so many different methods to practice observation, contemplation, or visualization. Hinayana has its observation practices such as samatha and vipassana and breath count. Its wonderful effects are realized by directing one's efforts towards one's thought and one's breath. As one's thought and breath merge into one being, because at that point where outside air becomes inside air becomes outside. Now, where is that? There are practices that some great teachers have shared with us. about full body breathing, the body expanding and contracting. But look at what the Buddha actually taught about. Some things become tradition. Tradition doesn't mean that it's true. It's just we got in the habit of doing this because that seemed to work for some people. Because some people said, I can't find that space where the out, the in breathing and the out breathing emerge. So he says, okay, try this, the rising and falling on the belly. And I'm like, oh, I can get something from that. Okay, you do you. So you use that because it's helpful to you. And after a while, it gets put down into a book, and the teacher said to that one, that's all you can do. You do that, and that becomes folded in to the tradition, into the method, and then many people do it, and many people find benefit, and that becomes tradition. And then tradition can start to supersede the prajna, and then one loses prajna, and they just have tradition. As one's thought and breath merge into oneness, one clearly observes one's inhalations and exhalations. So right away, when I used to teach this, I don't now. I probably still should, because some can really benefit from it in being able to still the mind. And somebody in here will do that. Somebody who does this practice and does it very well. That's who should teach it. And so, but as one is inhaling, you're noticing that was a long breath. That was a short breath. That was a strong breath. That was a weak breath. That was a staccato inhalation. That was a smooth exhalation. But they're just noticing the characteristics of the breath. But as they do, all of the 10,000 thoughts they had are narrowing. Now there's 10 thoughts, and it becomes narrower and narrower. Now there's just 3 thoughts. Then there's just 1 thought. And there is a kind of merging there between one's thoughts and the breath. And as one's thoughts and breath merge into oneness, one clearly observes one's inhalations and exhalations. And through stabilization, one obtains observation or insight through stabilization. So for me, for 20 years, it was a very, very useful practice. When both of Pannavati and I would work with this. But for Pannavati, he had already been a Taoist for 20 years. And he was well steeped in Chan method. So this was like child's play for him. For 20 years, he bore with us. But for me, I was just getting to that. Because I had practiced bhakti, which was more like the middle consciousness. I forget what the school is called in Chinese. I read about it a few pages after, but I was somewhere between Amitabha and the Dharma characteristics consciousness only school. I'm finding myself on the map. I'm starting to know now what methods I've learned, or what pieces of methods I've learned, and what has been useful for me, what has stuck with me, what is forming and fashioning the Pannavati that I know. And I got to know her to be able to move forward, to know which way to go. Do I go left or do I go right? But you see, it's all very, very, at this stage, it's all very, very personal until I have forgotten the self. But you can't forget the self until you know the self. And once you know the self, you're in a position where now you can forget the self. I know how to drive a car. I don't just go out with my keys and sit here and what's the first thing I do? Well, the first thing I do is open the car door, then I sit in the seat, then I push this key in, then I turn this key, and then I turn down my radio because I had it cranked up. The blast didn't last time I was in the car. So now I need to think for a minute. I turn it down, and then I'll just gradually turn it up as I drive along, which is what I always do. and then I put my foot on the brake, and then I look in the rearview mirror to make sure there's nothing behind me that I put into it. Maybe by the time I do that, shoot, time to take a nap, you know? But it's like all right there. You know, I didn't come back every single time you come to sit down and meditate, do you start at the beginning again? Inhale, feel the wind in your nostrils, get closer to that point where you cannot tell the difference between inside air and outside air. No, exhale, maybe you haven't even gotten to that place yet in 10 years of practicing. You know, I mean, do you keep starting over? We can't keep starting over. We have to be able to go on, carry on. I don't wake up every morning learning how to walk again, you know? But we think like in this practice, that's what we're doing every day. Every time we do it, we learn how to do this all over again. And we just keep repeating that. You know? So when you're doing these preliminary practices, there's gonna be the time that you come in and you sit down with the purpose of meditating, getting into a state of meditation. As soon as your butt hits the pillow, you done gone up through your preliminary practice. Like that. It's not, oh, this one takes me 10 minutes, this one takes 5, this one takes 20. Now I don't have time to get into the practice because I've already spent 45 minutes in doing the preliminary practice. That just means you haven't been doing them enough, you know, so that you get into the place that the minute my body sits on a pillow, it knows what to do. It knows it wants to meditate. In a chair, not exactly the same, because in a chair, I might want to read, I might want to conversate, I might want to meditate, so it's not all quite the same for me. But if I go and the minute I sit on a pillow and fold my legs like, just like that sudden silence, cut off of words. And sometimes I can be in the middle of something. But when I'm in the middle of something, I just bring that to my remembrance. The reverence, the awe-inspiring experience of it comes back to mind so much that I can hardly speak loud. I have to whisper. Every place I go, they have problems with me giving a Dharma talk because 1 minute I'm talking like this and the next minute I'm like this. Because all my mind has to do is to turn to it. And to turn to it is to be there with it. That's a spontaneous arising of something that influences the aggregates and tamps them down so that they cannot even rise. Now, I didn't know that that's what happened. I read it in the book. Buddha Master told me that when you get in these states, that the aggregates cannot act. So it's not me making them be quiet or making them, you know, like you sit down and tell your child, maybe y'all didn't beat kids, but I did. And so I would say, you make noise during this service and you'll have to deal with me when you get home. This is the time that you learn what being quiet. And they learn that pretty quickly. Kids have a ferocious appetite for learning things. They do. They learn more when they're children than they do when they're adults. And so they can learn quickly how when we're here, this is what we do here. When I get there, this is what I can do there. So I never had any problem with my children acting out or being in playtime. They knew this was being in quiet time. So, sorry, I digress. I'm just saying that all worldly Dharma is, I gotta close, guys. I'm late. You know, this is why I'm late to Dharma almost all the time. Because I start like 2, 3, 4, sometimes 6 hours. Sometimes I start at 6 in the morning. And I keep setting my alarm, like I'll tell the alarm to go off in, 2 hours. Go 2 hours, because then I know I got 4 hours left. Then I tell it to go off in 2 more hours. Then I tell it to go off in 1 hour. Then I'll tell it to alarm in 30 minutes. That means I have to stop and get ready now. Start getting ready for normal. And then it goes off and I'm like at one good spot. If I just get to the conclusion of this, I tell it, give me 10 more minutes. And then before I know it, I'm hustling because I'm running late. It's not because I didn't care. It's not because I didn't think your time was as precious as my time. But when you get into this, you can, it loses, time is lost. That's why I asked the question the other day after all that the anguish that we went through about imparting, how many spend a minute with it one time, how many spend time with it one time a week on your own? I only saw a couple of hands go up. And I said, how many, and I think that you really have a high value for it, but you just don't know how to highly value it. So I have to do a better job of that so that because I want each person here to reach this goal of Buddha. Maybe we think, well, what's the point, Brian? Because I'm not Shakyamuni Buddha, and I'm not going to be like Shakyamuni Buddha in this life. No, you won't. But you will reach a state of Buddhahood where you have control over your living and dying, and you can complete the different elevations of Buddhahood. That's a real thing. And if you don't have the confidence that this is possible, then you won't display confidence. I don't mean show me confidence, but you won't have it inside. If you don't have it inside, there'll be no way to attain it. Some things we can be on both sides of the road, but some things we can only be on one side to get to our destination. And where this is going, I'll pick up when I come back on Wednesday. And we don't have time to do what I was going to do today, but I'll tell you. If somebody can make a list of who was here today, because for those that I didn't give the achievement mantra, I want to get through the section on mantras before I give it. And this will expand or deepen the knowledge of some of you, and this will give you a beginning knowledge or correct something that you have misunderstood. I want to get to that section on mantras, but I wanted to give you the achievement mantra. So this one is the altar purification mantra, the mantra to remove obstacles for contemplation of emptiness, and the mantra that I have it here and said that I could not receive it yet. Was the power to read the minds of others. I'm not even sure that's a real move. Maybe that's just for one to check their own longing and greed. Maybe there's no mantra at all. It's just, if you desire to have that mantra, it's just to point you to your greed for power or something like that. Because I know for a fact, without having a mantra, you can know something about somebody else's mind. Or to have that mantra, you better be ready to have it, because you don't like knowing everything you think you want to know, you don't want to know. Yeah, some of it is too hurtful for you in your human frailty to even be able to follow, knowing what some people
I think the world is noisy physically.
Yeah.
When we sit down, rather than we're hearing.
That's right. And to even know what some people think about you. Oh, that would hurt you so bad. Okay, so was this good today? This was so good for me this morning. And so I will finish this section. I think we have about 30 more pages. But for this time, just want you to hear it, not read it or try to decipher it. Just listen to it. Thank you. Somebody offer dedication of marriage. Okay, for those of you who might be online, I will not be able to give you. I'm going to do two of these. Let me see. I'm going to do two of these, and that's just a special blessing from the Buddhist and Bodhisattva for being here. A couple of you have them, you know, but the others, I will give them to only those who are here. If you are not here but you were online, you'd have to come for like a weekend retreat or a day off retreat even, you know, or a 4-hour retreat to receive the transmission of the mantra, the blessings, and you take it back with you and then practice it until it becomes like breathing. Okay, somebody will close.
We wish for all living beings to have peace and happiness, and the causes of peace and happiness. We wish for all living beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. We wish for all living beings to have happiness that is free from suffering and forever plant the causes of no suffering. We wish for all living beings to be free from greed and hatred and ignorance. And may we all abide in emptiness, free of attachment.